Hello and welcome one more time to my YouTube channel. Today I am building an attenuator. I like to run sort of your classic valve style amplifiers. Usually these amps don't have a master volume, and the downside to that is to get the amp running at just the right sound and you get the right tone out of it, you have to push the preamp. You then have no real further control over the overall volume of the amp. It sounds great, but then that volume might be too much, and it might be too much for your rehearsal, it might be too much for the venue that you're playing in or something like that. So it's a common problem with valve amps without a master volume. A marvellous invention known as an attenuator that's helped people overcome this issue by putting the attenuator in between the output of their amp and the speaker. In this day and age, there's some quite fancy, all singing, all dancing type attenuators like the Oxbox and like the 2 Notes Captor X, which I'm selling if anybody wants to buy it. It's come loaded up with all sorts of features like IR loaders and cab sims and all that stuff. But all I really need is just attenuation. One of the things that I don't like about attenuators is it's another piece of kit. It's a box. They have to sit on top of your amp. They're visible and they're often quite ugly. So, you know, I was looking around for different options, and what I came across was an option by a company called Dr. Z or Mr. Z, I can't remember, Dr. Z, boutique amplifier manufacturer, and they do a type of attenuator, 2 versions of it. There's a standalone version, which is just a box that you sit somewhere and you plug your amp into it, and then you plug that into your speaker. But they also do a version that you can mount to the inside of your amplifier. So that to me sounded like a really good solution. Get it out of the way, it's not visible, your amp looks like your amp, you don't have extra kit, it's permanently wired into place, it's there if you need it. But they're expensive. Attenuators are ridiculously expensive for what they basically are. The most common type of attenuator, what it actually does is it takes the signal outputted from your amplifier and it adds resistance after it comes out of the amplifier in a way that it pulls the overall signal volume down, or signal strength down, and it will then send some of it to the speaker and then will dissipate the remainder of that energy as heat. Really comes down to this one thing. This is what's called an L pad, and most attenuators, even some amps that attenuate themselves, will have something like this in it. And what this effectively is it looks like a big potentiometer, right? There's the bit where you stick the knob, and you get a knob with this one. Look, see, there's the knob. Your 3 terminals here, one is an in, one is an out, one is the wiper. So it's very, very straightforward how this works. And really this is the only thing you absolutely have to do this. Turn the dial, it changes the resistance values. And what that effectively does is decide how much of the signal to send to the speaker and how much not to, and how much to then dissipate as heat. So I had a look around on how you wire these things up, and it is so basic, so straightforward. So on my screen over here, I'll flash this up so you can see it. We have the schematic that I'm going to be following, and if you look at it, it's very, very basic. You can see here, there's your input coming in. And it's going into a bypass switch first. So what this is doing for you is effectively allowing you to switch the attenuator off completely, so you can run with no attenuation whatsoever. You just send in the direct signal straight to the speaker, and your attenuator is doing nothing. The signal's not even touching the L pad. However, if you flick that switch on, it's then going to send the signal down through the circuit into the L pad. L pad that we've got, these L pads, you get them rated for the impedance that you want. So this one in particular, if you can see on the back there, is an 8 ohm L pad, and they have a wattage rating as well as to how much power they can take. And this one is a 100 watt one, which is why it's quite large switch. Now this is an interesting little addition that I am going to be putting on mine, and the reason for that is it's arguable that when you attenuate an amp, there's an audible loss of something other than just volume. People, claim that there's loss in tone and all that, and typically it feels like you're losing some top end. So what we've got this little switch here doing is 3 things for us. In the central position, it does nothing, and it just passes the signal straight through to the attenuator there, the L pad rather. However, in either switched position, either up or down, we get varying levels of capacitance that are adding back in some. Well, it has the effect, technically speaking, of adding back in some treble for us. And then the other part of it is something to put it all in and mount it, and this is basically just a straightforward Hammond 1590 BB, and I've done away with the bottom of it, and you can see I've mounted some little flat brackets there that I'm going to use to mount this to the inside of the amp. Now, probably the hardest part in all of this is dealing with this enclosure. Now, as I said, this is a resistive type of circuit, and what signal we're going to be preventing from going to the speaker, that power, that signal is going to be dissipated as heat, and it's going to be coming from this. So there's a couple of things we need to do really to help things along. One of them is we need to remove the back of this, and you can see there's these 4 little tabs on here, which we can release to allow us to pull the back cover off, just to release it to let more airflow in and around where all the magic is happening. And then the other part is this as well. We need to aerate this, so we're going to be drilling some holes, obviously to mount everything, but then some additional holes around where the L pad is, just to allow heat to dissipate. Whoa. Okay, so I'm back. I thought I'd just take a break at this point in the build out to just show you what I've done so far and where I've got to. So this is it. This is the thing. So let me show you some of the things I've done here. So as heat goes up, doesn't it? Heat rises. I thought best to put the hot bit in the top end of it, in the orientation of things. And so what I also did there was I drilled a bunch of air holes to let the heat out, let air flow through, and all that good stuff. So what I've then also done is just made a sort of, you know, reasonably educated choice on where all of the various other bits are going to go. So you can see I've actually bottom mounted the jacks where the speaker's going to plug in, where the amp's going to plug in, and so they're going to sit underneath, and the cable's going to come in underneath, so all good. And then you can see on the side I've put the 2 switches. The one on the bottom is going to be the on-off switch to switch the whole thing in and out of the signal path, and then the next one here is the bright switch. And I don't know if you can see, the only little bit of soldering I've done so far is to get those high voltage capacitors on to the bright switch. So you can see there, if you switch it one way it'll send the route through one capacitor, if you switch it the other way it'll send the signal through the other capacitor, and if you sit the switch in the middle it will bypass that capacitance completely, and you'll just get the natural signal going through to the L pad. So at this point all we've got to do is wire it up and then mount it. So I'll get that done, and I'll see you shortly. Right, so we're all done with the build, and we have it installed into our amplifier. You probably can't see it from this angle, so I have included a zoom angle there so you can see. We've got it mounted to the inside of our amp. You can see we've got our bright switch, we've got our on-off switch, and we've got our attenuation control. And you can see the vents up here. All the vents are around the top, so as the heat rises it will escape out the top. All very good. So just to give you an idea of where we are without it, it's switched off at the moment, out of the signal. So very nice and loud. Didn't even have the volume rolled all the way up there because we're in the house and have neighbours. So we want to know if this attenuates right. So let's first off let's turn it on and see what happens. In fact, let's set it to its loudest setting. This will give you an idea of what happens when you first kick it on with the minimal amount of attenuation possible. Now, if I play a note and then flick it on, hope that comes across, but there's a perceptible audio drop as soon as you turn it on, even with the attenuator turned to its lowest possible setting. So you're getting, straight away you're getting some attenuation. It still sounds really nice. So let's see if the actual knob turning does a thing. Yes, there we go, see? I'm kind of turning the volume up on the guitar all the way now. So all the way to nothing. So, not that we'd want it at nothing, but... Alright, so it's doing the job really nice. We're now cranked on the amp, full volume on the guitar, and we're at bedroom friendly levels. Very nice. So the bright switch as well, this is going to be really difficult for you to sort of perceive, I'm guessing, through this tone test, but at the moment the brightness switch is right in the middle, so it's not doing anything. That's bypassing the switch and bypassing the two capacitors that we wired into either side of the switch. So I hopefully have labelled these correctly. So if I play a chord now, sounds nice. But if we turn our bright switch onto the bright setting, brightness, back to the middle again, so no brightness adjustment. Very subtle difference. And then let's go to the brighter setting. Difference between the brighter and the non adjustment. Mission accomplished. We've got a working attenuator built into our amp that if you didn't know any different you wouldn't even know it was there, which is great. And it seems to be working fine. The L pad is dialing in the attenuation and bringing the volume down, which is great. This thing, you know, is absorbing quite a lot of power, but at the same time, if it is dissipating it out to heat, right now under this, you know, a few minutes of use, I'm not feeling any heat coming away from this thing at all. So it's probably quite efficient with the 22 watt, with a 22 watt amplifier, in that it doesn't actually have to convert much energy to heat. So it's doing quite well. So I suspect it'll work quite nicely. Alright, so if you've got any questions about any of this, if you want to know where to get the parts from or anything like that, I might put a few links in the bio for this video. Yeah, so thank you very much. Don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe, and check out my band as well, the Dogshark Blues Band. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.